Selma is a symbol of the resistance to the right to vote. And for that reason, I will have to be here to march with you tomorrow morning in Selma.
In 1965, when a peaceful march for voting rights turned violent in Alabama, a call went out for more support. Among the activists who turned out in force to make their way from Selma to Montgomery was a priest studying law at Catholic University named Joseph Cooney. He returned to Washington determined to work for social justice.
That following summer, I worked as a volunteer on what was called a SCOPE, mostly voter registration. Then I went full-time, starting this community on 11th Street, and from there the legal service evolved.
11th Street Northeast, near Union Station and the H Street corridor, was a once thriving neighborhood in decline. Right across this alley, Cooney says, stood a homeless shelter for African American men.
We had no plans, no big plans. We just grew out of the fact that we're two priests that happened to be lawyers and the needs of this community around us.
Just 7 months after opening University Legal Services, Martin Luther King was shot in Memphis, Tennessee.
When Dr. King was killed, the whole city exploded. I drove around the city. 8th Street was burning, up 7th Street, Anacostia. It was very difficult. And we became a food distribution point for the city because all the other places had been looted.
The neighbors helped with deliveries and they protected the office.
The neighbors didn't want University Legal Services to be harmed in any way, and so wrote SOUL, S-O-U-L, across the door of University Legal Services to let the neighbors know that these people here are helping us in the community and they're part of the community.
The riots scarred the city, but also set in motion a new push for social justice.
We had a shift in consciousness, I think, that people who, you might have been low income, you might have been poor, but you had rights, and that you lived in a country that prided itself on being just and fair. So I think people took that and ran with it.
I believe your background, though, is in urban psychology or dealing with police problems in the so-called ghetto.
For district residents, that meant exercising their civil rights in a way that impacted daily life.
This is a people's victory, a victory for community control.
Many civil liberties ULS defended then and defends now concern housing, affordable housing for the poor, accessible housing for people with disabilities, and help for homeowners like Eleanor Herron.
I needed some help because this is my family home. We moved here in 1957. So to think about trying to lose it or something just was really disconcerting.
Herron consulted a University Legal Services housing counselor.
Miss Annie Tyson, she was my counselor that helped me get the papers together and tell me what to submit, especially the hardship letter.
Counselors help with loan modifications and many other assistance programs.
At the end of the day, my house note was reduced $1,000, and that made me feel really good because I'm still here and I'll be able to leave it for my kids.
ULS knows how to help because they pioneered the concept.
It's historic, really, because that's how housing counseling developed in the District of Columbia.
We stumbled into it because that's the need that occurred.
ULS founders may have stumbled into housing issues, but they went to court to challenge and change housing laws. Landmark cases include Harvey versus Dunphy.
Harvey versus Dunphy was the first housing discrimination jury trial in the district.
Another case, Mendez versus Johnson.
Mr. Mendez was an attorney who decided to just put his tenants on the street.
In Mendez v. Johnson, it was determined that landlords would have to go to court in order to evict tenants.
The Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act also helped district residents.
This is an opportunity for the tenants to buy their buildings and control their own destiny, control their own costs, and maintain affordable housing in the district.
The law gave renters first right of refusal to buy their buildings, and ULS helped them organize to do that. Jane Brown started at ULS as a tenant litigation attorney.
We would go out and meet with the tenants at night or on the weekends, whenever it was convenient for them, and make sure that they were registered with the city, that they understood their rights and the timelines, that they had to get all their paperwork and create their tenant association. Not only did it lead to home ownership for individuals who had never owned homes before, and therefore providing a stable environment for them and their families, but it also secured neighborhoods.
While the fight for housing continued, a new cause emerged, protecting and advocating for some of D.C.'s most vulnerable citizens. People like Donna and Ricardo Thornton.
Hey, Ricardo, how are you?
Hey, welcome.
The Thorntons grew up in Forest Haven, a virtual warehouse where the city locked away children with cognitive disabilities.
You know, you're in an institution, how you get out? And you got an R word that's going to be with you for the rest of your life. That's how we felt.
The denial of rights went further, says ULS lead attorney Sandy Bernstein.
They were witnessed or were subjected to abuse and neglect. They were denied a really appropriate education. They watched family members, friends die and suffer.
After a long battle with the city, Forest Haven closed in 1991. 5 years later, ULS became the city's designated protection and advocacy agency, enforcing the rights and welfare of district residents with disabilities. Then, ULS attorneys discovered hundreds of former Forest Haven residents still needed protection.
When we heard the institution was closing, we were like, yes! Forest Haven is closing! We were excited. But when we came into the community, we found out that, oh, wait a minute. They're closing, but we still got the same institution right here in the community.
Not all communities welcome persons with disabilities, and not all group homes deliver the quality of life promised by courts. But with vigilant advocacy, many people lead fulfilling lives.
On my wall in front of my desk, I like to keep pictures with me to remind me of why we do this work. I know you know everybody, so if anybody you know who used to live in Forest Haven has some medical bills,
we will work very hard to ensure that our clients are not abused and neglected.
Hey, thank you so much, Sandy.
Sure.
As part of its protection and advocacy work, ULS documents hundreds of assaults, physical injuries, deprivation, and financial exploitation. From group homes and mental health community residential facilities to youth centers called residential treatment centers, and the long-troubled St. Elizabeth's Psychiatric Hospital. To see the payoff of their work, ULS staff members need only look around.
The fact that H Street was named by the city paper as DC's hippest street is something that you wouldn't have envisioned even a few short years ago.
But along with prosperity come new challenges related to affordable housing. It's a challenge that keeps counselors busy.
I'm looking to buy a new home.
When I see the person that already went through the whole process and they are happy in their home, and they call me and they say, you know, we went to Settlement Anna Maria and, you know, we moved in and we're owners instead of renters. That's very satisfying.
And ULS continues to open new fronts in the fight for social justice.
It seemed that the prisons and jails in this country had become de facto psych wards. And so I thought, well, you shouldn't have to go to jail to receive mental health treatment.
So ULS creates programs to identify and connect inmates with mental health services that can follow them into the community. They also work with the city's rehabilitation agency, charged with helping people with disabilities find employment.
And I think at this particular time that we've moved all to the point where persons with disabilities are very much discriminated against, especially in getting jobs.
Under one contract with the city, ULS provides a wide range of assistive devices. Moving people from institutions to independent living remains a fundamental goal pursued with dedication.
Good afternoon, University Legal Services.
This isn't just a job, this isn't just a lawsuit, you know, that this really is about people's lives and getting them what they're entitled to.
After bearing witness to nearly 50 years of changes in the nation, in the city, and the neighborhood, Joe Cooney says the fight for social justice continues.
Our purpose at that time was service, to be a community of service. And what's so great about present ULS is we have a wonderful staff that has that same dedication, that we're here to help people with their particular needs and not to have some kind of a master plan that we superimpose on our clients. We take them where they are and try to do the best we can to move them forward.